Howdy, my name is Callum, also known as Northern Dice, and I'm going to be reviewing Libertalia Winds of Galecrest by Stonemaier Games. This is a 1 to 6 player set collection hand management game that is I believe it's a reprint. It's one of the first well, not really a reprint, it's almost like a remastering really, that Stonemaier have done. It focuses on players going on voyages, using crew to collect different treasure tokens, and earning coin at the end of each round. It runs over 3 rounds, which go over the set of several days, and at the end of the game, whoever's got the most cash wins. This copy of Libertalia Winds of Galecrest is a review copy. We were sent this, we are not being paid for any of these thoughts, and all of these opinions and thoughts are entirely our own. So here I've got Libertalia set up for a 3-player game. There are variants on how you can set up, but this is generally what it will look like regardless. The variations include flipping the board because there's another side with different ones of the treasure identifying what you'll get from each token. There are also little tokens you can add to these, which will again change what will happen. So there is a bit of variation in setup, but this is what it looks like as a standard. You have the number of players plus 1 treasure tokens on each day. You only fill up to day 4 because day 4 is voyage 1, and then on voyage 2 you'll go up to day 5, then on voyage 3 you'll go up to day 6. So there's more rounds in each day, if you will. There's more opportunities to get more treasure. You have the reputation track with players placed randomly somewhere in the middle for a 3-player game. For a 2-player game it's the centre point, and then up to 6 it'll just be completely random. You then gain the treasure accordingly based on where you are. So as example here, the black player has gained 11 coins, white player has gained 10, the blue player has gained 9, and then all players get the exact same coins. This is something that I really stumbled over during my first game, because as soon as you get a deck of cards, first thing you want to do, you want to shuffle it. So I shuffled mine and then realised I wasn't meant to. What happens is it's better to have one player shuffle all their cards and then deal themselves 6. And then when you've got 6 cards, as the blue player has here, all other players then go through their numerically ordered deck and take out the exact same cards. Everybody starts on the exact same footing. Cards range from 1 to 40, and what value they hold determines where they will go on the island. Lower numbers go this side, all the way up to the higher numbers on that side. And what players are aiming to do is play cards that are going to earn them the most coin by the end of the game, whilst also trying to compete to collect the most precious, most valuable treasure by the end of the game as well. So as example, if we were to just run a dummy round, all players choose their cards simultaneously. You do not have to say which card you're going to pick. It is completely blind to all other players, but you will just need to say, I'm ready, and then you would go 1, 2, 3, and reveal. And based on which card you've chosen would determine where you would place that card. So in example here, we're going to have the blue player choose the bandit. We're going to have the black player choose the watchman. And we'll have the white player choose the treasurer. Now each of these have a different effect on them, and the cards always have, or not always, but mostly have, little effects on the bottom of their cards which tell you what they do. And dependent on that symbol determines when they activate. The system for each day runs in a really simple way. All players choose the card they want to play, everyone compares and you place accordingly, and then you activate sunshine, daytime abilities from left to right. So you go along this track here, activating sunshine abilities accordingly. So with the bandit we are going to move to the leftmost space of the reputation track and gain 1 coin for each space that you gain this way. The reason you'd want to do that is because the further you are that way, it's almost like the worse a pirate you are. So let's place the 1, 2, 3. So he's moved 3 places. So he's going to gain 3 coins. So just place that in his little store. And that's him, done. He now waits for the black player to activate. And the black player is the watchman, because all players have got the same. I can show you one here for this one. It says, switch a loot token from the current day with the next day, if possible. So they're going to look at this and realise the sword is pretty naughty. So they're going to choose to swap it for a barrel. I'll talk about these in a second as well. And the white player is going to choose to use the treasurer, which actually does not have a sunshine ability. The treasurer has an anchor, which, if you will focus, gain 1 coin for each barrel, each amulet and each chest token in your ship. So the sequence is sunshine abilities, dusk abilities, nighttime abilities, anchor abilities. We activate all the sunshine abilities going this way. Then we come back and highest number has priority. And you go back this way, and they take 3 steps doing this. The first thing they do is choose a loot token from the current day. So it's the treasurer, they're going to choose the chest. I'll place that with the white player's stock. And this card then comes back to their ship, and he sits in front of that player, opening in front. And it's important that he does that because some of the abilities, in example of the treasurer, have anchor abilities, which I'll talk about in just a second. If we just run through this as well, the black player would move back here, no special effects happens, but they're going to choose the barrel. They would gain 1 reputation for doing so. And then the blue player would get free choice of the map or the amulet, and they're going to choose the map. And then they're going to move back here, back in front of their ship. Now at this point, nobody actually changes their treasure chests, which track all of their money. So for the entire first round, from day 1 all the way to day 4, you'll have 00. Once you've completed day 1, day 2, day 3 and day 4, then everybody tallies up what money they have earned. And that's when the anchor abilities will come into play. Any anchors, either on treasure tokens or on characters, would always activate at the end of the round. Which means that you want to try and make it so that you've got the most beneficial characters in your ship at the end of the round. Cards in your hand at the end of the round go through to the next round, but nothing else happens with them. Whereas characters on your ship are added to effectively the graveyard, but the discard pile. The discard pile is always face down and always is just there. And you can retrieve them from that using card abilities, but generally speaking, when they're gone, they're gone. Once you have gone through all of that, and all players have activated all of their things, you would then activate the nighttime abilities. At the end of each dusk, activate the night abilities, and they activate every round. So anybody who's got a nighttime ability, an example of, if I've got any here, the brawler, at the end of every single round, if she's on your ship, you would earn 1 coin. Which is really powerful, but at the same time, the brawler's sunshine ability, the daytime, is discard 1 brawler from an opponent's ship. If you do so, gain 2 reputation. So the chances are they won't stay on your ship. Because they are so powerful, they're often quite easy to get rid of as well. On the flip side of that, some of them can be quite detrimental to you if you don't use them in the right way. The mutineer can remove the lowest ranked character from your ship, and then you earn 2 coins at the end of every round. Problem with that is, you may be losing some very valuable cards. There is another card in here. The Explorer makes it so map tokens, one of them is worth 2 map tokens. Any other anchor abilities that are worth it? Gain 10. Yes, that's what I was looking for. There are a lot of synergies and combinations you can get going with this game. And it's really, really hard to try and get it all in a sequence that makes sense. I will go through the treasure now, but you do need to know that once you know the sequence of the game, everything else does just come as a surprise. Because you might play this once and once only, which means that you'll only see 18 of your cards because you draw another 6 every round. That leaves you with 22 cards that you've never seen, and because of the way that chaos works and shuffling cards, you won't always necessarily get different cards every time. Anyhow, the chest at the end of every round will give you 5 coins. The barrel gives you a reputation as soon as you take it off the island, and you gain a coin at the end of the round. The relic makes you lose 3 coins. The hook allows you to take one of your characters on your ship through to the next round, which is very powerful. Or alternatively, you can just keep 2 coins. You just gain 2 coins. The saber allows you to remove a character from the island, which is sequentially important, because if you are there and you've got a character here, when you remove this character by taking a treasurer token, they're removed, so you can't take them off. But if he were to take a sword, he could remove the black player's character, put it in the discard, and then they don't get any treasure. So you can be a little bit vicious with this as well. The amulet gets you 3 coins at the end of the round, and the map, for 1 token, gets you nothing. For 2 tokens, gets you 7, and for 3 tokens, gets you 12. So they can be quite coveted as well, but it depends how many are out. Because there's only 2 in this example setup, there's only opportunity for 7 coins. And players may hate draft that, but at the same time they might also just completely ignore it knowing it's valueless to them. With that as well, there are lots of tokens and cards that allow you to discard things, remove things, change things just to try and get the edge, but the one thing you need to know is that you only ever take stock of what treasure you've got after all the days are done. So for this one, once day 4's finished, this player would then tot up what they've got and they would spin their spinners until they get to their first score. Now this is public knowledge, and in all honesty, you can easily snatch a solid 40 points in one round. So just because one player's on 35 and you're on 12 does not mean you're out of the game by any measure. The only difference with a 2-player variant for this game is that you would have, and I believe this is in solo as well, this token out, which is called the Midshipman. And he sits here. There is a double side to him, and it does not change what he does. He's the exact same, it's just an artistic change. But basically, that acts as a little bit of a spite and a risk, because the only three spaces you're really going to use at any time are 1, 2, and 3, possibly 4 if you both play high cards. So if that player plays that there, this player plays the Necromancer. We have to go in sequential order, so 19, 20 and a half, 32. The Midshipman makes it so that the other player, as soon as they've taken treasure, before he is allowed to choose whatever he wants, the first player can remove one of the tokens off the island and just completely get rid of it. So they may leave them with nothing to choose from but a nasty relic. It does make it quite tactical. It makes it a lot more vicious, in my opinion, the 2-player game, as opposed to the 3, 4, 5. However, that's not necessarily a bad thing because it encourages you to interact more. It still engages you in that player interaction, which the 3, 4, 5 and possibly even 6-player, which I haven't managed to get out, but even that level of player interaction can be present in that 2-player game because one of the spaces is a little bit of a you are going to get screwed over if you go next to him. But you don't have a choice quite often because you have to squash up next to him. It has to be sequential. But yeah, that is a basic rundown of the overview of Libertalia Winds of Galecrest and how to play it. It's no secret that I'm a massive fan of Libertalia Winds of Galecrest. I think this game is phenomenal. If you do follow me on Instagram, then you will have seen lots of posts in the recent weeks that I have just been playing this non-stop, and the actual experience that you have is so fantastic. My biggest thing for this game is the player interaction. I think it's superb. It's not without fault, but it is excellent. Everybody starts under the same level playing field. You all get the exact same 6 cards to start. And at that point, other than the reputation track, everyone is in the same position. This comes into play when you've got 2 cards of the same value. You go left or right based on whether you're left or right on the rep track. Higher rep means you've got first picks of treasure. Lower rep means you've got first activation of any daytime abilities. It has its ifs, it has its positives and negatives, but it's there for a reason. But where the actual change comes in everyone having the same cards to start with is that experience difference, because you'll not all play them in the exact same order, and you cannot physically have them identified. You cannot have them resolved in the exact same order because you've all got different reputation values, different track elements, and also 1 in 6, there's no chance that all 6 players will pick the same card. It's brilliant as well because those cards that do interact with each other, you know full well that everyone else has got them, so there is that prime opportunity for everybody to have that interaction. My favourite example of this is when we were playing and we all had the Brawler in our hand. I played the Brawler, I got it resolved, it came back to me. Next turn, everybody played the Brawler. Everybody wanted to cash in on taking me out, but also I think it was that realisation moment that we can do this. This is going to happen. It was superb. Another example is the Cook, who allows you to take 2 treasure tokens instead of just 1. Bit of a tricky one in comparison because if you have the furthest this way, you get choice of first 2 tokens. Next person gets the next 2 tokens, and then after that, if there's no tokens left, well, it's tough. You're not getting anything. That interaction and that experience is superb as well because as you're playing, you're adding more cards into your hand. So let's say that I played these 4 cards and I was left with number 27 and 31 in my hand. At that point, I'm then moving forward with a new 6 cards that everyone else has got, but they may have forgotten what 2 cards I started with. And because everybody always knows what's available, you know what to expect, but what you cannot predict is how players will use them, the synergies they'll build with them, and the dynamics of the board changing as they're played, especially when it comes to those big cards that may take other players' cards out, or even when those tokens are taken in particular orders. My one gripe with the player interaction is the comparison between 2-player and 4-player. I found 2-player to be a lot more intimate, a lot more heavily focused on that 1 versus 1 experience. Even though you've got the fabricated 3rd player of the midshipman, you are constantly on the watch for that 1 player to try and make sure that they are not only getting ahead of you, but so that you can actually spite them. It might come across as quite hate drafted, and it probably is, but that experience was a lot more intimate than a 4-player experience. And the reason for that is because some of these cards specifically target adjacent players, which means that I can target my left and my right, but the player opposite me is going to be running away with it. Particularly if I can see what they're doing, I don't want to tell my opposers just in case they don't want to then waste their cards on them. It becomes a bit, I don't know. For me, anytime a game says you can only interact with left and right, and it's not a cooperative game, it throws a bit of a spanner in the works in my head, particularly when that 2-player, that 3-player experience as well is just so phenomenally explosive in terms of how you're going to work against each other. 4 players, you've then got the odds and ends that you cannot necessarily touch somebody, but it is what it is, and it works still. It's still an extremely high player interaction game with a lot of opportunities for take that, to outmaneuver and to just outdo someone. So yeah, player interaction, big tick for me. As far as replayability goes, well, as I said a couple of minutes ago, you've got 18 cards that you'll play with throughout this entire game. The other 22 are a complete mystery. I've still not seen all the cards in that deck played. I've had a good look through them because I got a bit overly excited looking at the artwork and wanted to just oogle it. But realistically, you are always going to get a different experience because there's no guarantee that you'll get the first 18, the second 18, and then the final 4 plus another 14 in the next game after. Unless you made it that way, but then I feel like that's a bit of a letdown because then you won't see an example how the surgeon and the cook can be used in synergy. You won't necessarily see how the freed prisoner and the brawler and the top man and the armourer and the gambler all work with each other. You will get to a point as you are playing where you can constantly have a favourite card to play, but that doesn't necessarily mean you'll always get it. The replayability in terms of the board, you can flip it. It has got another side where it has got the nighttime version, let's just do these, on where the actual elements there are different. In example, for this one, the relic loses you 1 coin every single night as opposed to just at the end of the round. So a smaller scale effect, a lot bigger scale effect, but a smaller scale loss each time, so it depends on when you get it. You've also got tokens you can put over these on both sides to just mix and match that experience, so then that's there as well. I think the replayability comes in with the chaos of the card shuffle and that you can't predict what you'll always get. I've not tried solo player, but I have had some people say to me that it's very enjoyable and very akin to 2-player, but I think I'd missed that player interaction directly where you are able to throw some smack talk at them or be able to try and smirk as you're laying a card. That is the big thing for me. I know I'm going back to player interaction, I've just covered it, but it's a massive, massive winner. Component quality, I was really taken aback as to how good the quality of these cards are. They are really nice, sturdy, thick, excellent, really good feeling cards. The tokens, as much as you've got them in increments of 5, 3 and 1, who does 5, 3 and 1? But they're nice and sturdy as well. Your discard pile is another big thick piece of card. I don't necessarily think it has any purpose. I mean, you've got your nice white ship on the one side and then like a crash ship on the other. No real function other than that, but again, really nice and sturdy, well made. Really a big fan of these treasure trackers. Most people don't like spinners, but I like them a lot. I particularly like them because when I win, I like to leave it on top of my preferred deck with the score that I got, just to brag that extra bit more. I like the little starburst style tokens where they are nice and sturdy. Not always a fan of screen print because for me in my head, my instant reaction is it's going to rub off, it's going to wear. I haven't had any wear so far, and we've played this a solid 10, 12, 13 times, I believe. These octagonal tokens for the rep, nice, sturdy, easy to see. I think in my head, I'd have liked them to be coded with a symbol on them, simply for that player colour blindness element. I'm not colour blind myself, but I know what it's like to have a visual impairment, so I think it could just be an extra thing. Just a sticker that you can stick on that just says blue, purple, white, BL for black, green, red, and even maybe in the top corner of the cards as well, just a different symbol or something along those lines to identify which is which against each other. I know colour blindness only affects certain spectrum colours and they may be able to be avoided on certain player counts, but I think it could have just been an extra little bit you could have added in. The bag that they're all in, nice, big fan. The little player token, again, a little tray, plastic with a little cap, very nice. There's been a lot of attention to detail in terms of everything, but the real winner for the actual components is the artwork. It is absolutely gorgeous, very, very akin in my head to Treasure Planet, this style of the anthropomorphic animals interacting with each other on a pirate ship. You've got a necromancer axolotl, you've got a poison dart frog treasurer, you've got a kangaroo surgeon, I think it's a polar bear watchman. There's no end of just fantastic examples of these. Look, the gorilla governor, the seagull first mate, the cat who's a captain. At first I thought it was alliteration, but it turns out they are just quirky animals with an associated job. Things that you might find on a ship. And again, you won't ever see all of them. Even the artwork on the actual board is stunning, and on the reverse is also fantastic. So yeah, the illustrator deserves a massive pat on the back. Who was it illustrated by? Lamaro Smith. You are the real winner in this game because the artwork is just stunning. I've been incredibly positive so far, and I've only mentioned my only negative being the player interaction difference between 2 and 4. So are there any other things that I don't like? And no, there aren't. I really, really enjoy this game. I think it's brilliant. It doesn't cover all the bases of every game. It's not going to be a game I will always go to by choice, but it is so easy access. There's no complexity to it whatsoever. Everyone's given the same cards. You find out what the cards do, you play them. Once you know the mechanics of it, you're sorted. And I know you could say that for any game, but it literally is. For a game where there is so much randomness in setup for card distribution, for tokens laid out, once you know how the game actually works, you just roll with the punches and ostensify what you're going to do to best gain as much treasure as possible. I don't think there need to be any negatives for this game because it is already a well-established game that Stonemaier have, as I said earlier, effectively remastered. And I think they've done an absolutely cracking job in my opinion. The rulebook is very nice and straightforward, very akin to a lot of the Stonemaier books where you've got explanation, example, and there's a little bit of I think there's an FAQ at the back. Not going to look right now, but it's done really, really well. Is it a game that I would recommend? And the answer is yes, because I've got no qualms with it. But I think it's going to be a very, very niche market. Now that sounds quite strange to say because I think this game anybody would enjoy. But it is definitely more family oriented. Because there is a good amount to take that, which probably isn't family oriented, but the artwork, the ease of access, the fact that it is always going to be the same routine but with different cards. It's not massively asymmetrical, it's more variable card powers based on what you draw, but everyone gets the same. It lends itself incredibly heavily to being very accessible for families, for small casual gamer groups. Definitely not something I'd expect to see on people's shelves who are those hardcore gamers. The weight of this game is perfect for what it is, for what it does, but it doesn't need to be any heavier. And because of that, I would say, yeah, I'd recommend this. If you need a game that is hand management, token drafting, a little bit of randomness every time you play, perfect, get this. But if you're wanting the extra meat on the bones of complexity, variability, asymmetry, then probably not this. Which is a shame for me to say because I really love this game. I think it's brilliant. But I can acknowledge where its limitations are, and its limitations lie in that appeal to big, heavy-hitting gamers who want those big, heavy-hitting, complex, thinky, clunky, card drafty, lots of synergising across a massive combo game. You play 4 cards in the first day, those 4 cards go in your discard. You play 5 cards, those go in your discard. You play 6 cards, those go in your discard. You can get synergy across rounds by having the hooks played or by using the surgeon or some other cards that allow you to bring cards back from the dead to put them into your ship. But it's not something you can always aim to strive to get. There is no perfect method with this game, which probably is the reason it is so much more akin to a family game than it is to a big, heavy hobby card game. But that's just my 2 cents on the matter. As I've said, I'd recommend this regardless simply for what it is, and it is an excellently easy access bit of fun where you play cards to get treasure, stick it on your ship, and it actually doesn't last more than 40 minutes, so it's even better that you can play a second game with families. As always, thank you ever so much for sticking around for this review. I have gone on long enough hyping on about my love for this game. I will catch you next time.